Neuroscience 101 with Anna. Here in our brain we have neurons, right? And in our, I don't know why they're different shapes from the other, but in our neurons there are neurotransmitters. And what happens is when these neurotransmitters are transmitted, that is what creates energy, or I think it's ATP. And this energy is what creates our emotions. And this is our reward system. So everything we do is to create these emotions. This is what helps us feel fulfilled and happy. But what happens is there's this gap here. And in order for these neurotransmitters to be transmitted, for them to pass through this gap, we must perceive that our deeper psychological, emotional needs are being met. So what are these emotional needs? I like to use the 6 psychological human needs that Tony Robbins uses. And these are love, growth, contribution. That's why service feels so good. It's because when we perceive that our needs are being met, that's what creates these emotions, and that's what feeds our reward system. So when we feel that these needs are being met, that is what helps us feel fulfilled. Anyway, so when we feel we're contributing, when we feel we're growing, or that we have love or connection, we need to feel significant. We'll do things to feel significant. Certainty. We all need to feel in control and safe. And variety. How boring would life be if everything was exactly the same, right? There'd be no purpose, we couldn't grow. A lot of these are kind of interlinked, but these are like the 6 human needs. Everything we do is to basically meet these needs. And what's interesting is when we perceive that these needs are not being met, that is what creates pain. And so, yeah, since the time we were young, we would perceive that our needs would be met in different ways. Like when we were young, we perceived that loving, our connection came from hugs from your mom, and growth came from different things. Anyway, so when we saw that our needs were being met, this created pathways in our brain to make it easier for that to happen, right? And so we would do something, and then our needs were met, and that created a reward. And then that would make that neural pathway in our brain even stronger and stronger until it became, this is what an addiction is, basically, or a habit. Now, and it comes to this point where it becomes super strong and automatic, and then we just do these things. What's interesting about this, though, is our needs are met all based off of our perception. And so, for example, maybe going throughout our life, we perceived our needs were met through yelling, right? We perceived that it was hard for us to get love and connection, and so instead we choose to yell so that we at least are not ignored, and so at some level we get some connection, right? And so because we perceived that it met our need for connection, we did it. Also during this time when we yell, it also maybe helps us feel variety or certainty because we feel more in control. Maybe it feels that we're more significant at some way, right? It's all based off of our perception. But anyway, the more that we did it and the more we saw our needs were being met, the more reward we got from it, the more we did it. Even if this is just subconsciously without us realizing it, right? Subconsciously we perceived our needs were being met, but consciously we know that we don't want to yell. This is a consciously unwanted behavior. But because our subconscious perceptions and patterns perceive that it's serving us, that's why we continue to do it. The same thing is with any addictions, like a drug addiction. Maybe we perceive, or maybe even any addiction, like an eating disorder, they perceive that it helps them to meet their need for love and connection, maybe at some level, because people are giving them attention and they try to care and tend for their needs. Maybe they perceive that they're growing because when you go through an addiction cycle, it's interesting, you'll go to a low, right? And then you'll hit rock bottom, and then you'll go back up and you'll get better. Like, that's what an addiction cycle is, but you kind of just go in a circle and you don't really get anywhere. But because at some point you are growing, your subconscious mind perceives that this addiction pattern fulfills their need for growth. And so because it creates that emotion, sometimes it will continue doing that even though it creates pain. Maybe this addiction helps them actually fulfill their need for certainty because they're more comfortable with this cycle, right? It's something that they become used to and they're familiar with, oddly enough. They become comfortable with it, and so they stay there. Maybe they feel at some level they're contributing because the story that they're telling themselves is that they are, contributing to other people's lives somehow with this addiction by, maybe the people that are helping them, they're at some weird way helping them to, I don't know. But it's all subconscious, it's all based on perceptions, and that is why these patterns are formed. And what's interesting is, to neuroscientists, addictions in the brain look the same as like depression and anxiety. So these patterns in the brain, they literally are the same, and they literally are just these things that are created because the subconscious mind, our subconscious minds perceive that it's serving us by helping us meet these emotional needs. Okay, so then the next one I wanted to talk about, was depression or anxiety. I don't know if I even spelled that right. That's embarrassing. Credibility down by 10 points. But depression, maybe they perceive that they are meeting their need for love and connection, kind of like addictions, because subconsciously, like, they maybe perceive that people will pay attention to them, or, maybe they perceive that they're growing because they're also going through this cycle. Maybe they perceive that they're contributing because maybe they're like, oh, I have a depression, so I'm able to empathize with other people. They feel like they're a good person almost. I know for me, when I had depression, I chose to feel sad when other people were sad, because I felt like in order to be a good person, I needed to feel sorrow for other people when they had pain. Let's see, maybe they feel significant because the story that they're telling themselves, or their perception, is saying, hey, like, this is something unique, like, this is a story about me that's unique in my life. Maybe they feel certainty because they are going through this cycle that's comfortable. Maybe they also feel certainty because it gives them an opportunity to not need to do things, like maybe they can just stay in their bed without them consciously realizing it and being aware of it. Their subconscious mind perceives that maybe they have more certainty with this. Maybe they also have more variety because it's something different, right, than everybody else. But for whatever reasons, their subconscious mind has perceived that this is the best way for them to meet their deeper psychological, emotional needs. So, the good news is that this can change. These patterns can literally, they're neurons, they're neuro patterns, neurotransmitters, neuro patterns, their brain patterns can literally be rewired. So, for a long time, neuroscientists believed that the brain, once it reached a certain age, that they would just, those patterns would stay the same. new science is showing that that's not true. They don't stay the same, that our brain patterns, plasticity, can literally change. And that is called neuroplasticity, is our ability to be able to shift and change our neural patterns. And when to do that, we have to be able to find a new way. Instead of yelling, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to try to meet these emotional needs instead. And you help yourself see how you can meet your deeper emotional needs with this new behavior instead. And when you can help yourself see that you can meet these deeper emotional needs through a more effective way, and actually that the emotional needs will be met more effectively this way, that is when you allow your brain to create new pathways. And then you take this new new behavior that you want to ingrain, and when you do it, you celebrate. When you see that you're making a shift and you're changing your thought process, celebrate. There was this story about these baseball players. They studied a bunch of baseball players and figured out that the most successful ones were not the ones who hit the ball every time, all the time. Actually, that's not part of the story. The most successful players were the ones that celebrated and had the same rush when they swing without hitting the ball as when they hit the ball. So no matter if you win or succeed, celebrate at your attempts, celebrate at your little accomplishments. The more that you celebrate, the more that it will enforce and create stronger neural pathways. So celebrate and repeat. Repeat. Repetition and emotion are what will help you to strengthen and create neural pathways that are really strong and really effective, and you can literally change the way that your brain is wired so that you don't no longer need to do these unhelpful patterns, but instead you can do more effective, helpful things instead. Yep, that is some basic neuroscience 101. And I hope that helps. I'm going to record this video again maybe, but I'm going to try to post this just to get it out there. But yeah, thank you so much. Bye.